Welcome to the Fresno Bee Editorial Board, and today we're meeting with Dr. Joseph Castro, President at Fresno State University. All remarks will be on the record, and we'll begin with an opening statement from Dr. Castro, and after that, members of the editorial board, as well as Fresno Bee reporter Hannah Furfara, will have questions for the President. Dr. Castro?
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. I appreciate the invitation to be here today. This is an exciting time at Fresno State. We're starting our 105th year, and there's a number of very positive things happening. One that I wanted to highlight for you that I think exemplifies the excellence that is occurring there is Gavin Baird's recent selection as the Marshall Scholar. And as you might know, this is a very prestigious scholarship that's given to just a handful of people around the nation. And Gavin, who grew up here in Fresno and as a Fresno State student, was one of just 4 students in California selected and the only CSU person selected. He is the first Fresno State student to be a Marshall Scholar. So we're very proud of that, and we've highlighted that. I think that's just one example among so many of the great things that are happening at Fresno State from an academic perspective. Our student success rates are increasing. As you know, student success is the top priority for us, and our graduation rate increased by 3 points last year, which relatively speaking is a very significant one-year increase. We anticipate it's going to increase again, I think at least a few points. And so I'm very excited about the trajectory that we're on from that perspective. And for so many students and families that we serve, that is the most important issue for them, is that we serve our students well and help them graduate in a timely way. Gavin's award kind of exemplifies for me and so many of us the importance of academic excellence. We're emphasizing innovation, and I just came back with a couple of cabinet members from a American Council on Education Innovation Lab, where they invited just 5 universities from around the country who were interested in focusing on innovation across everything we do. And so we have a number of initiatives in place. As you know, the Discovery Initiative is going very well, where we've moved from textbooks to tablets. In the first semester, our students on average saved over 55% on textbook costs, so it's lowered their costs to attend Fresno State. The most important thing, though, is the engagement. And we looked at data for a course that was offered by the tablet and traditionally, and the achievement levels were half a grade higher in the tablet course than they were in the traditional course. So I'm excited about the innovation there, and I'd be happy to talk more about that as we get into things. On the challenging side, compensation for our faculty and staff has been a huge issue. They went 7 years before I arrived without any salary increase, and this was part of a CSU, in a sense, freeze because of the Great Recession and budget restrictions. We invested significantly in that area this year, and that will support all of our faculty and staff, and especially the faculty who have been the lowest paid, primarily, but not exclusively, in the arts and humanities. We're bringing a lot of those folks up to a higher level, and the same with our staff. And that's really important because we want to recruit and retain the most talented people. Our infrastructure issues are still a challenge, and I'll be happy to go into that as well. Deferred maintenance. But again, I want to look at it with this new cabinet in a new way, and I'll be happy to expand on that. Those are probably the 2 largest issues, in addition to making sure our student success rates continue to climb. But infrastructure and compensation, I'd say, are the 2 big ones. Enrollment, we'd like to grow faster, and I'll be happy to talk more with you about that. Given the demand in the Valley, that would be something that's very important to serve the increased number of students in the Valley who want a higher education. So we would like to grow faster, and we're growing as fast as the state and the system will allow us, but I'll continue to advocate to do that even faster. So I think I'll stop there, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Well, that dovetails with my first question, which
Sure.
is what do you see in this ongoing state budget negotiations and the CSU system attempt to get more funding so that more eligible Valley students will be able to attend Fresno State? And also, when you came to Fresno State, you talked about students going through Fresno State in a much faster, more efficient manner. One, to save money for themselves, reduce their student loan debt, and two, to help the Valley economy, which needs a highly educated workforce. If you can tell us what you see about these budget negotiations with Governor Brown and the legislature.
Yes, happy to. Well, I'm encouraged that the governor has continued his commitment to investing more in higher education. The current proposal on the table will allow the CSU to grow its enrollments by a modest 1%. And for us, I think we'll get about a 1.5% increase. We're looking at about 275 or so new state-funded enrollments. That's in the current proposal. If the legislature decides to invest more and the governor goes along with that, we of course would be very happy to grow faster. We had 5,000 students who were academically eligible for this fall who we could not accommodate. And for me, that's a huge challenge and missed opportunity for us and for the San Joaquin Valley and for the state and nation. And so you talked about, Bill, the need to focus on student success, and that's really important for the individuals and the families and the communities. It also, if and when we do it better, it allows for more flow, so we'll be able to accommodate more students if we can help them graduate in a timely way. And we're not going to do it by cutting corners. We're going to continue to raise quality so that students get a really good experience and one that prepares them well for the workforce. So I'm encouraged by the state budget in that way. I'm hopeful that there'll be more of an investment. The trustees have asked for more. Chancellor is advocating with all the presidents for more. The governor did listen by putting in more one-time money for capital and deferred maintenance. And for a campus like us, that's hugely important because we have a very significant deferred maintenance challenge, and so those dollars will help. Again, I would love to see more of an investment in that as well. And that's one-time money. That wouldn't necessarily permanently obligate the state. So that might be an opportunity where if the governor wanted to do more and could do more, that would make a big difference.
So from your time at Fresno State, can you identify for us maybe some of the measures that you've taken or what you've learned about supporting students so that they could graduate, let's say, in 5 years instead of 6 or 7 years?
Well, I can tell you that we're looking at every single thing we do right now to support students. We're looking at how we do advising, and our faculty and deans are now working with our provost and our vice president for student affairs on a whole new way to do advising. And we will make a significant investment in new funding to make sure that students get the advising they need in a timely way. They get touched more often, they get touched earlier, and they get touched in kind of a comparable way. Right now there's some unevenness by school and college, so we're going to raise the level for everybody. So that's one example, and there'll be more details coming as we work through that. The Discovery Initiative is another way that we're working to do that, and what we've found is greater engagement by the students and the faculty. And in terms of innovation, faculty now are generating their own books on the tablets, so they're not just saying go to the bookstore and buy this $150 book. They're creating materials and they're excited about that, and we'll have 120 new faculty joining that effort for next fall. So we'll scale it from where it is now, which is about 1,200, to about 5,000 in the fall, and then the plan would be to go to 10,000 the following year. And we're assessing all the way we go, so then the question will be where we go after the 10,000, because that'd be roughly half of the student body. But so far the satisfaction levels of the students and the faculty are in the 90% range. And so for a new initiative with a lot of moving parts, we're very excited about that. A number of philanthropists have stepped forward to support the program. AT&T and the Asimi family has also supported it, as well as our foundation board. So we've been able to provide scholarships to every student to cover the cost of the tablet, to defray most of it. They still have to contribute some, but it's not the whole thing. So those are some ways that we're looking at it. The same thing with scheduling, Bill. We're looking at ways in which we can assure students that they have a schedule of courses that leads them to complete their degrees in a timely way. This is easier to say than to do. There are a lot of moving parts, but we're examining all of these different pieces because those are the things that we can actually manage within the institution. Some of the other things about income, that sort of thing, we can help with scholarships, but as you know, there are a number of reasons why students might start and stop. But I'm really happy that our loan indebtedness level continues to be among the most modest of any university in the nation. It's in the low teens as a median, and if you look at the median for the nation, I think the median where we're at now was the median for the nation maybe 14 years ago. So we're certainly in good shape there, and I want to keep it that way, keep it affordable for our families.
Can you tell us, add some details to a story from a couple weeks ago about the university wanting to double the number of Native American Indian students at Fresno State? Certainly, yes. We have a significant Native American population here in the Valley.
Absolutely. Well, as a public university, we believe that we need to serve all of the communities, and I have tried to reach out to every community throughout the Valley, and this is certainly a community that has experienced a significant decrease in their presence at Fresno State. We lost about half of the American Indian, Native American students in the 5 years prior to my arrival. And the reasons for that, I think, are fairly complicated, but the important thing for us is that we get on a track now where we change that and build the credibility with the community so that this is a first choice place for them. And that's what I want for all the children of the Valley as they're growing up thinking about where they want to go. I want more of them to view us as their first option, not their last option, but their first option. And so this is part of that effort to build that credibility, to have the support services in place. So it's about helping to identify those students and get them to Fresno State, and then making sure that they're supported and they graduate and become part of the leadership of the Valley.
And last question from me before
Sure.
we turn to other members of the editorial board. There have been two high-profile shootings, one of a 15-year-old girl, one of a 9-year-old girl. They both died, both innocent bystanders, as the police describe it. When you see something like that, does it prompt you to think about ways in which Fresno State can be involved, whether it's policy guidance or calling on your deans to address what has been a long-standing issue in our community, that of gang violence? We know that police can track down the killers, but that doesn't solve the problem, as you know.
I agree. You know, public universities have that special obligation to work on issues of importance to the community, and this is certainly one. I spoke over the weekend at the Dr. Martin Luther King breakfast, and one of the things I said there is that when universities are at their best, public universities especially, that they play that very important role of not just sharing current knowledge about issues, but through research and analysis, actually creating knowledge, creating opportunities. And so we certainly have that role and that responsibility, and you see it every day, whether it's in our work on health care or education. We recently won a national award from the American Association of State Colleges and Universities focused on our educational excellence, or in agriculture. I mean, that's another area where we've really tried to share what we learn. Is in the water area. A lot of our technologies being used out there come from research and programs at Fresno State. So I'm saddened by what happened over the weekend, and I was with Chief Dyer when he announced that yesterday at the march, and you know, that was somebody who could have graduated from here. So it's certainly a sad thing, and I hope that we help in terms of whatever the community can do to reduce those numbers of incidents and make it safer so that students choose to go to college and careers rather than hurting each other.
And Hannah has questions, and of course she covers Fresno State as part of her beat for the Bee. Hannah?
Hi, Anna.
Good to see you this morning.
Good to see you.
I've talked with students and seen posts on social media with concerns about campus safety and
Yes.
lighting on campus. I know that you're undergoing some infrastructure projects. Will any of that include extra lighting near student parking, near the Save Mart Center or other lots?
Absolutely. You are correct that I've heard from many students about their safety concerns, and as well as from faculty and staff, and we do have an obligation to make sure that we have an environment where everybody thrives. Just this morning at our cabinet meeting, we were reviewing the lighting issue, and we just allocated the funds necessary to bring all of our campus lighting up to a higher standard. And you'll see over the next 6 months or so improvements. We've, I think, addressed the most problematic areas, but this will provide a uniform lighting to go to LED, which is brighter and more energy efficient, by the way, so it'll be less costly to maintain. And so that'll be happening over the next few months. And we have a group that walks around twice a year now that will continue to make sure that we take care of these things. And through social media, I definitely hear more from students when, you know, the sprinkler is broken or there's a light out in a parking lot, and that also helps us because then we can address those problems more urgently. But it's very important for us to provide a safe campus, and we'll do that, and we'll look at other ways that we can provide support so that everybody can thrive.
Open it up now, Jim Boren.
Thank you, Dr. Castro. Talk a little bit about the athletic side of your job.
Sure.
You have a new athletic director in place now. One of the other initiatives you've talked about is the status of reinstating wrestling. Can you give us an update of where that issue is?
You bet. I think Jim did a great job over the weekend in kind of describing where we're at, which is to give him some time with me and with others to develop a plan for all of athletics. And in December, for the first time since I've been president, I now have a list of all the areas of need in athletics in terms of the infrastructure. I had not had that until then. It took some time to gather and to make sure our coaches and our student athletes and the staff were all on the same page. So we're giving him about a month to decipher all that, and then he and I are going to present a plan to the public. that will include sports expansion, and will include a timeline for the reinstatement of wrestling and a second sport, women's sport. And as he, I think, said correctly in the paper, and again last night when we were talking about this with a group of wrestling advocates, the most important thing for us is that we do this right and that we're successful. So that's the guiding principle here, and we don't want to rush into it. And everybody agreed to that the worst thing would be to rush into something that we're not quite ready for. So when we present that timeline, we'll feel very confident that we can get it done in that timeline and bring up other sports that need it. So for example, we need to redo our track. We need to redo our tennis courts. We need to look at Bulldog Stadium again with a fresh eye. ADA issues exist there as well as other issues. So with him, we're looking at the whole range of things, and as you might imagine, this is going to be a big number, and we're going to have to plan for that over a period of time. Just over the weekend, the NCAA passed legislation that will result in new cost of attendance requirements, and those changes will cost somewhere around 1.2 or 1.3 million a year in new costs for us, just with our current sports, not with the new ones. So we know that it's going to cost more to stand still, and we're not going to stand still, we're going to rise, so it will cost even more, and it will require the university to invest alongside of all of our friends who love Bulldog athletics and want to see us compete at that highest level. So that's really the highest priority, is to get all that together and then work with our friends to raise the dollars to do that.
So just a quick follow-up on that.
Sure.
When you expand those sports, whether it's wrestling and this other women's sport that you're talking about, practically how soon would it take? Could you get it done next season if it all fell into place? Or are you talking a couple of seasons? I mean, I know that your timeline's not in place yet, but
yeah,
curious about what you're sort of thinking, you know, long term.
Sure. It can happen. It cannot happen next season. We've got some work to do. We've got to make sure we have the facilities. We need to hire a coach. We need some time to recruit and to provide scholarships and that sort of thing. So we're talking about a few years down the road here, and that's the part when we go public with this, there'll be a specific date that everyone will know, okay, we're going to have wrestling on this date in this season, and we'll even talk about how many scholarships it will be, because the NCAA allows for up to 9.9 scholarships. Most wrestling teams are not at 9.9, they're lower. We will probably phase ours in over time to get to the 9.9. So when we come out with this plan, you'll see that we'll phase it in as we're phasing in the other sport as well. And we'll make some other adjustments to our existing sports that we've been wanting to make. So they call that roster management, and we'll make those kinds of adjustments. And all of this will be fully consistent with our commitment to Title IX. We're very near the conclusion of a very old review, and I anticipate any day now hearing from them that is a closed matter. We've given them everything that they asked for. The final issue was the soccer lacrosse field, and that's been completed. They wanted to see the plans and the pictures and all that, so we gave them all that, and I believe we're nearly finished with that. So that'll offer us a fresh start to work on these things together.
Dr. Castro?
Yeah.
I'm really encouraged by the increased use in the tablets.
Yeah.
What percentage of the courses are offering tablets for students to use?
It is still a small percentage, Tom. I think it's just a couple of percent right now, but it will grow fast. And the way it's being driven is through the faculty member, and it's all been volunteer-based. We decided that the best way was to invite people to participate, so we've inspired rather than required. And what has happened is that they have been inspiring other faculty to get on the list, and so we actually have a wait list now to join the program. So it's every course that a professor is able to offer with the tablet. And in talking with them, I spend a lot of time with them, and I listen to what they're doing so that we can make sure we're supporting them. But I think the most important thing is that they're looking at their course in a completely different way. They're designing materials, they're interacting with their students. And I even noticed over the weekend with Twitter, I had a lot of new followers because the students in the courses, in the tablet courses, are getting onto social media. So you're seeing this ripple effect in terms of engagement. And for almost all the students in this initial cohort, it was the first such device that they've ever had. And it's not about the device, it's really about what they can do with it. And it gives the student from Kerman or Parlier, wherever they're at, the opportunity to engage in a deeper way with the institution and with their faculty members, with the students. So it's a very exciting thing. We've been having conversations with a lot of universities around the nation who are watching us closely, because this hasn't been done quite this way with a population like ours that's Hispanic serving, Asian American serving as well, high percentage of Pell Grant recipients. So it might look differently at an institution that had a different demographic profile, but one thing we've really focused on is that support for the students so that they know at any time they can get help. If you've gone into our library, the Discovery Hub is really kind of the central nervous system of the program, and there are always people there, mostly students, ready to help. So I think we've nailed that really well. I haven't heard one complaint about, oh, I can't get the help I need, because we've really stressed that. And the issues that we've had in terms of challenges have been around our infrastructure, and we don't quite have our infrastructure aligned yet with this program. So if you look at a video of a tablet course, you'll see traditional desks and things. We need to look at our furniture, we need to look at space in general, and those are things that we're now moving towards in a different way. And I talked about the $200 million deferred maintenance estimate last week in the spring assembly. That number, in a lot of ways, represents more the past. And what I said to the cabinet this morning is, let's not recreate the 1950s model. We've got to create the new university model going forward for the next 50, 100 years. And it's not going to look like we just had. So we're going to look at space in a new way, and it will be aligned with our programmatic goals here. And it's very exciting. I think it's got people excited about the future and planning and being part of that.
I have one other question.
Sure.
With the graduation rates, in some cases taken, 5 to 7 years,
Yeah.
has there been any discussion about expanding the summer sessions to offer more courses for students to help them expedite their time?
Yes, summer session and intersession. So we have during the winter, while most people are, spending time with family and friends, we had a huge increase in the number of students who went into the intersession, and that was encouraging to me. That, for us, I think that that meant that this message is resonating with students about ways that they could finish in a more timely way. And part of this is psychology. It's setting those expectations and changing the culture that this is a really important thing. So we saw a large number of students taking courses during the intersession, and more will over the summer. So we'll look at different ways of doing that.
Dr. Castro, last time you were here, you had announced or you had explained that the food pantry for students that was on your priority list. Can you provide us with an update and see how it's been working thus far?
Thank you. as you know, food insecurity is a huge challenge for us, just as it is for other institutions in the Valley and around the nation. We had a report that concluded that 30% of those surveyed, of our students who were surveyed in this report, were food insecure. And there isn't any way that I or any of us can say, hey, graduate in a more timely way if they're hungry. And so we've rolled out now a number of different programs. The one that gets the most attention is the cupboard. And the cupboard is something that we talked about because it's kind of like when you're growing up, at least for me, when I'd leave to go back to school or early days of my professional life, my family would get a bag and put some soups in there, or noodles, or, you know, you get a little care package. And the same at my wife's family, they would do that for us. So it's that concept that a student, when they need it, can go to the cupboard and get some items. All they have to do is show their card. And we had over, I think, over 1,000 people who benefited from it, right, Shirley? 700? And yeah, in the first 19 days. And that, for us, was a great start. I think we'll see more. We're going to track that carefully. That's just one part of our initiative. There are other parts which include staff will have certificates, little tickets that they can give to students. If they need a quick meal, they can go to the residential hall and get that. We're putting more affordable items in our convenience stores so that if they just need a quick snack or something, it's nutritious and it's lower cost. So we're trying to be as conscious about that as we can. The food bank is actually partnering with us now around the cupboard, and some of the philanthropists in the community who support the food bank are talking about ways to support us both, and so I'm excited about that. I think that'll be very helpful. What we learned in our research, Juan, is that students, even though they needed help, they didn't want to go, many of them didn't want to go stand in line with other families because they felt like they were taking it away from another family. So we've created the conditions where they can go and get their own items themselves and get it in dignity. And so it's over by the farm market, and it's a good location. We probably are going to outgrow it and look for something else in the future, but it's a good start.
Okay, so all the time you have visited, you've talked about success.
Yes.
And clearly you're a very positive personality, but surely there's been something after you've come to Fresno State that you've had an idea about, and it turned out that idea or gut reaction was wrong. Can you identify such a program or challenge, and then tell us what your reaction was to that?
Sure. Well, I think I would characterize it a little differently. I think it took me a little bit of time to understand exactly where people were, and that's the listening part of being president. It was a fairly traumatic time for all of higher education during the Great Recession, and at Fresno State in particular. And to lose 1/3 of your funding in such a short time, I think it has the effect not just of reducing programs and people, but in a way it creates some trauma, a level of trauma among those who stay. And I know in the newspaper industry you guys probably can resonate with that. And that's what I have seen and I have felt. And yet the innovation is there, the excitement to do things in a different way is there. It just took a little bit of time to find that connection, and I believe we have it. You know, the faculty and the staff had gone the 7 years without any money, so they were in an untenable situation, doing a lot more day to day because the workforce had shrunk and not getting any additional compensation. So it's been very important to have that credibility of saying, I hear you. Our largest single investment in this budget is around supporting our people, and that makes them feel like, okay, it's not just words, it's actions. And I think that's going to make it a lot easier for us to innovate in a fast way, because I think it's there. It's just people wanted to feel like, you know, their institution really cared about them, and so during these tough times, I think it does cause some trauma, and I think we're out of that. And as I said last week, as the Great Recession gets further in the rearview mirror, we can focus more boldly on the future. And so I would say that's been one of the learning opportunities for me as president, to come into a situation like that, because I had experienced it at UCSF in a different way. We had, you know, just 5% of our funding was state funds, so we already had a portfolio of different funds and a different model. So I would say that that's been one of the opportunities. On the very positive part of that, though, with the retirements of people, vice presidents, we've attracted some incredible folks. We have not seen any issues in terms of recruitment. We've attracted and hired the top choices for all these positions: Jim Bartko, Paula Castadio, Lynette Zalesny, Frank Lamas. And they're all really at the top of their game right now, which is wonderful. They're all at the top of their game, and they all love to work with each other. So as you might imagine, that room, it's pretty exciting, along with the other folks who are there and offer that experience and perspective from the past. So I'm very optimistic about that. But as I said, the challenges, I think, are pretty clear. The infrastructure one is a huge one for all of the institutions, including ours, and I want to get us on a path where I stop talking about how big the problem is to more of specific plans, and you'll hear more about that in the coming months.
If you don't mind a question from left field, there was
Sure.
a published report detailing former Fresno State President John Welty's new assignment for the CSU. And some people at that campus were questioning his salary, et cetera. But buried in the story, it said one of his responsibilities was helping develop the new pharmacy school in the city of Clovis. And that was a surprise to me. Is the school aligned with the CSU system in some way, or?
Well, that school is not part of the CSU. He has been involved with that university for some years. I don't know exactly how many years, but when I entered the transition period with me, he did share that information, and I think it's a great idea to have a pharmacy school in the San Joaquin Valley, so I was encouraged by his participation. I've seen him a few times when he's been in town to support that program, and I think it's good that they have him as a thought leader to think about how to go from there.
Yeah, it was sort of implied in the article that it was a CSU responsibility. That's why I asked you the question. I wanted to get that cleared up.
Yeah, all I want you to know, I'm not privy to the agreement that he has with the chancellor, so I'm not sure exactly what that connection is, but I was aware that he was part of it, and I'm glad that he's continuing to be involved here in Fresno.
But Fresno State does not have a connection to the pharmacy school.
Not an official connection, but the connection that I really like is that we're talking together so that our students know early on that that's a pathway for them if they want to be a pharmacist, because my other institution, UCSF, very small, very selective. This offers more opportunities for people in the Valley to get that PharmD degree. So in that way, we have partnerships with our College of Science and Math to help make sure that our students know about that as an option after they graduate, just as we would with UC Merced getting their doctorate in engineering or some other field.
Common Core is a very big issue, and students now starting in third grade are being tested for the first time this spring.
Yeah.
Can you share with us what's going on at Fresno State? Because it is an important teacher training college for the Valley and the state of California.
Yeah.
What's going on in regard to Common Core?
Sure. Well, our faculty and our dean have been engaged in those conversations nationally. We've been supportive of the move to Common Core. I think what you'll see is even deeper connections between Fresno State and the school districts over time. We'll be meeting shortly with a group of their leaders to talk about ways that we can further strengthen our credentialing programs with an eye towards what they view are changes in their environment. So I think we've been very attentive to those changes. I'd like to further strengthen the connections and the efforts, and because we provide the teachers in a lot of the classrooms, we're part of that challenge of academic preparedness that people talk about, and so I think that we have responsibility for that, and part of the student success of having students graduate from Fresno State in a timely way is connected to the preparation they receive before they come. So we definitely are going to do everything we can to be supportive and helpful there.
President Obama's announcement that he would like all high school graduates in the United States to receive 2 years of community college.
Yeah.
That certainly, if it goes through, will impact Fresno State.
Yes.
There have been critics that have said you could spend $60 billion in better ways, including making sure that high school graduates were better prepared for college. Just your gut reaction to the president's announcement.
Well, in general, I think it's a positive step. I want to see the community colleges succeed in supporting our students. We have some work to do. Bill Stewart and I have talked about this, and with Mike Hansen, we want that pathway. If we just use the local example from Fresno Unified through State Center to Fresno State, to be even more robust than it is now. We have a large number of students coming directly to us, and that's great. I would like to see that pathway get developed so that more students pursue it and can succeed in it, and that will help us with the flow. So, you know, when I talked about the 5,000 that we couldn't accommodate, if we all felt confident that some number of them will go to the community college and come to us, not only does it save them money, but it means that we can accommodate more students together. And I'm encouraged that the enrollments are a little higher at State Center. I think that's a healthy thing. And so the policy idea of enhancing access, I support that. I'd love to see more support for four-year institutions as well, like CSU. But I like the fact that this focus on access at the community colleges there. I think it's a good thing.
And when you meet with local education leaders and superintendent at Clovis Unified, Michael Hansen at Fresno Unified,
yes.
You mentioned Bill Stewart at State Center,
yes.
And I know there have been talk about goals, about enrollment and things. Are these mutual goals? Do you have input into them, or are they borne by the leaders of the respective districts?
You know, it's a great question. That's certainly the vision that we have, is that we talk to each other and work together and shape the vision that we each have, because in the end it's about the whole community. And I would say we're in the you know, in early stages of doing that. And just last week I was with Mike and Brian Angus and Preston Prince, because I think about 1/5 of Fresno Unified students live in public housing, and a lot of those eventually come to Fresno State. So having those conversations and planning together, I think, is very important. It's easier to say than to do, but I very much want to see us working closely together, and I think it supports the community to do that.
And last question for me, and if anyone else has a question, please get ready. We have about 5 minutes to go. When you see the rising cost in college athletics, and you see the so-called power conferences upping the ante based on their huge television revenue, does it give you any trepidation about your Rise Together model?
No, I do believe, though, this is a very different period of time. I think that, as Jim Bartko said to me last night, there's going to be more change in this next year or so than the NCAA has seen perhaps in its history. And so the world is moving quickly, but it is for education as well. So I think that the important thing is that we focus on what's best in terms of serving our students and making sure that they're successful. In these recent changes, that means it's going to cost more, so we're going to have to deal with that. But the good part of that is that it ensures a higher level of benefit for our students. They'll get the full cost of attendance, and I think it will help us with recruitment. Because of course we have the choice not to do it, but if we were to choose not to do it, then we won't be as competitive as I want us to be. So yes, it's a challenge, but I think the whole thing is a challenge, and that makes it very exciting to try to figure out what the solutions should be in this ever-changing set of dynamics. And you know, a 100-year-old institution has been doing great things for a long time, so we know how to do that.
Any last questions?
Yeah, later today we'll hear from the community college system about community colleges that will have an opportunity to implement 4-year college degrees.
Yes.
We'll find out if State Center is one of the 15 systems picked. And have you heard anything about this, or do you have any thoughts about community colleges jumping into the 4-year bachelor's programs?
I do. I think it needs to be done very carefully and thoughtfully. We were asked recently to express an opinion about some of the ones proposed around the state. And for example, there's one that's being proposed outside the valley that would focus on kind of applied viticulture. And the legislation is clear that there shouldn't be any redundancy in programs. So I think they're going to have an issue with redundancy with Cal Poly, with us. And so in those areas where there's a strong community need and there's not a comparable program, I think that there's room for innovation. But I think if we go down the road of creating programs that are the same, that's where I'd have significant concerns. And of course, this came up on the other side with joint doctorates and then later doctoral programs, so I understand that. And I think finding those areas, those kind of sweet spots of need, and there's not a competing program, that's where I would focus.
And you have about 90 seconds for some concluding remarks, if you'd like to take that opportunity.
Sure. Well, thank you for the opportunity to be here. I appreciate the questions. This is an exciting time for Fresno State. We're changing quickly. I think if you ask our faculty, staff, or students, you'll find that there's a sense of excitement about what's happening on the campus and in the community, and we're seeing it in terms of development. We've had a doubling of the number of people giving to our President's Circle Fund in just the past year. And so there's these encouraging signs out there of support for what we're doing, and my job going forward is to make sure we do the very best in serving our students and our faculty and staff and staying connected with our 200,000 alumni and all the other friends. And I do believe that our academic programs and our athletic programs will continue to rise through innovation and just asking those tough questions and being authentic about how we respond to those. So I'm very encouraged about the future, and the next time you invite me back, I'll be able to share more about how some of these things are coming together. But I appreciate the opportunity to be here today.
Dr. Castro, Shirley, thanks for coming to the Fresno Bee today.
Thank you.